Hi everyone, welcome to the Animal Reader. The Animal Reader is an animal news organization. Every day we post news about animals, and every 2 weeks we host a show in Worm, that's in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. Today we're going to talk about pigeons, and I have two guests. The first is Billie Savage, who runs Pigeon Rescue in the Netherlands. She's based in Amsterdam. And the second one is Sophie Heiner. She is an artist from Rotterdam, and she started Pigeon Rotterdam, Rotterdamse Duiven Dutch. That's an art project. They both have a love for pigeons, and they both want to educate people on thinking differently about pigeons. Welcome, both of you. I'm gonna start with you, Billie. I'm gonna show some, everything I'm showing today is from the Instagram from either Billie, this is from Billie's organization, or from Sophie. This is a picture from your Instagram page, and you started very recently Pigeon Rescue Netherlands. Why did you start it? How did you start it? And can you tell us something about the picture we're seeing?
Yeah, well, thanks for having us on, Priya. I started this last year in 2020 when I started really seeing that there was a big problem with stringfoot in Amsterdam, but also in other cities. And it is possible that lockdown maybe had something to do with it. You have more time, you start looking around. I think a lot of people since then heard that a lot of people during lockdown became more aware of what's going on with pigeons just because you have time to start looking at the world around you. Yeah. And I just started with rescuing some pigeons, and then it went from there. First, it was something I was doing on the side, but in recent months, it's been pretty much full time. And I decided right away that there was a need for a foundation, there was a need for attention on this. I discovered pretty soon that there was nothing going on to help pigeons. There was no projects already underway, no attention, no awareness. So I thought it was really important to start something. So it just sort of went from there, a combination of trying to set up a foundation and to raise awareness, and actually just the hands-on rescuing, which is every day.
And because of you, I know what stringfoot is, but we're seeing a picture of it. Can you explain to us, like, what is stringfoot exactly?
Yeah, well, it's a condition that affects pigeons worldwide, but in some places it's worse than others, and it has to do with whether they have to walk a lot for their food, to search for food. So they walk on the ground that can be like kilometers, and they catch strings and hair in their feet. And because of the way their feet are made, and also the way that pigeons, unlike parrots, cannot use their beak to take anything off, and they also have a tendency to walk in circles a lot. Yeah. Then these get wrapped around their toes, and if it's tying their feet together, then they really struggle to get food because they depend on walking to get food, just like chickens. And if it's left, then it gets tighter and tighter, and it starts to cut the toes off or cut the whole foot off. Extremely painful. So in this picture, you can see his feet were tied together, and the strings had been so tight over that left foot that he's now in my aviary, by the way, Diesel, that we could only save this middle toe, and he cannot really walk properly on that foot anymore, but now he's pain-free. Okay. So yeah, it's more in some places than others, and in Amsterdam, it's like in many parts of Amsterdam, 100% of pigeons have this. And you will see them without their toes a lot of times. That's when the strings have taken their toes off. Yeah. And then sometimes they're pain-free, but they might have a problem to walk because they need their toes to balance and this kind of stuff. But the worst is when it's around their whole foot. Yeah.
Did you just say like 100% of pigeons have this in Amsterdam? Like
in some parts, yeah. Some squares in Amsterdam, particularly more in the city center, where there's maybe very little green and a lot of garbage from the tourists and stuff, and they're walking a lot of people dropping stuff. Or, for instance, in markets where they have cloth markets, and then there's a lot of strings coming from the cloth. Yeah. So in some places in Amsterdam, all of the pigeons are missing toes, missing feet. It's really quite horrendous. I spoke to someone recently who was made aware of this problem through us, and he said he used to enjoy his walks through Amsterdam, but now he doesn't enjoy his walks through Amsterdam anymore because he sees this everywhere now.
Yeah, because that's something you told me, and I'm going to switch to Sophie for a second, that once you've seen this, like because of you, I know this, this is a really bad comment, but I never wear my glasses, so I still don't see it when I see pigeons on the street because just I have bad eyes. But once, like, Sophie, you worked a day for you wanted to do, like, as research, you worked with Billie. But ever since you did, you cannot unsee this anymore, right, when you're outside?
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, I already noticed pigeons a lot because I'm already fascinated by pigeons. But now that I know that there's a way to help them, it's very hard to see them like this, or you can really distinguish between pigeons who have a very loose string around their foot, or pigeons who have already a very damaged foot. So yeah, I see them all the time, and it's very, very sad, and you can almost not unsee it.
And Billie, what is so like looking? This is still diesel, but how do you just cut it loose? What is the way to?
Yeah, it depends on the pigeon. And of course, I learned a lot in the last year, and I've been to a lot of vets who have expert with to learn from, and also from other arborists in the United States, in Germany, in the UK, in Netherlands. I couldn't find any organization that was doing this. So I've been learning as I go, and it depends on the pigeon. If they're loose strings, it's great. You can just cut them off. When they start to embed, sometimes you can still cut them off with a bit of disinfectant, but sometimes I have to take them home, and they can have between maybe 2 weeks to 3 months of rehabilitation. Sometimes they need a little prosthetic shoe to try to get the toes, and some vitamin B to get the nerves back into the feet. So, it depends on the pigeon, and I've learned a lot. I'm still learning, obviously, but I feel pretty confident now that in most cases I can save the foot. And if it's really, really, like, I just got a pigeon last week where we have to amputate her foot, but it's still going to save her a lot of pain that otherwise she would have gone through a slow amputation on the street. And now she's going to be with a vet with painkillers, and it's going to be like a clean cut. So it depends on the pigeon. Yeah, but I've learned a lot, and experience. You can't really have a substitute for experience with this, because some things are not entirely obvious. They might even be slightly counterintuitive.
I find it so. On Instagram you're called Pigeon Rescue NL, but since you started posting, I find it really fascinating everything you do, because this is still Diesel we're looking at while you're talking, but this is him now, right?
Now he's in the aviary. I don't have a very recent one. Well, actually, I do. I posted on my stories. He fell in love with Daisy, and they have been just doing nests ever since then. And, that's all they do is sit on their eggs. They have fake eggs, like I put plastic eggs for them, but that's all they do, actually. So, yeah.
I'm going to go through a few more. This is a few more cases to show people what they can look for. So this looks like thread or something, I think.
Yeah, it was like a nylon thread. And a lot of people told me that they see pigeons with strange things with their feet or with toes missing, and they never knew it was strings. Because when you see them from a distance, sometimes it's not that obvious. The strings have got really embedded, and it just looks like they have a swollen foot. And all the stuff that we see with pigeon feet, like the missing toes, the missing feet, all this stuff, it's almost 100% of the time it's strings. It's always strings that is causing this problem. And it's completely preventative.
How people should just stop throwing things on the street, I guess.
It would help. It would help if the streets didn't have so much threads and stuff on them and hair. And it would help if there was more green. Amsterdam has had an initiative to start putting more green around the city, to stop cutting down all the green. This is great. We're really happy about that, but it could be more. Because, if they can walk in their natural environment, then they don't get this problem so much. And obviously, what we really want is true preventative measures, which would mean pigeons get some type of basic care. They have feeding spots, they have shelter. And in some parts of the world where they now have these policies, you never see pigeons walking on the street anymore. They're only just up high, on the buildings, because they don't have to walk on the street anymore for food. So it would just solve so many problems if we could do that.
And then just talking about pigeons, most people who watch the animal reader, I myself, I'm vegan, but I even know vegans who have pigeons. For them, people see them like how you, Sophie, I think describe it on your Instagram account too, like flying rats. People have see them as something disgusting. Why do you think we started thinking I'll ask Sophie then, why do you think we started thinking so badly about pigeons?
I think it's just such a huge collection of different things. Like Billy also said, it's kind of like a culture thing. It's like what we teach our children. But also, I've read somewhere that because we see the city kind of like unconsciously as our own property, if birds are situated there, then people will automatically unconsciously see them as a pest because the city is our place. We built this and they're there. They're not supposed to be there. Obviously, it doesn't help that lots of pigeons are a little bit dirty, but again, that's because our cities are dirty, because they're finding warmth at dirty places. Yeah, it's just so many things. Also, because of the media portraying the pigeon as the flying rat. I mean, this nickname it has become so popular that people just see them as that, I think.
Yeah, and people automatically think always they carry a lot of diseases with them and they're dirty, right, Billy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what is the so I'll go back to you, Billy. Like, if you see this yourself, right? So you're walking and now you've seen the pictures, people can follow you, and if you see these a pigeon, like you're based in Amsterdam, you cannot yourself help every pigeon around, and there's very little places you can take them. But if you're in Rotterdam and you see this, what do you do?
Well, I mean, it is very frustrating. I do feel often really quite, that's maybe the flip side of this work is I start to feel very responsible for all the pigeons in Netherlands. And I just heard there's one in Eindhoven with the feet tied together, and people are calling me from all over the country now, like there's a pigeon with this there. And I feel like, great stress, like I have to help this pigeon, but how am I going to get there? And there's everywhere pigeons that need help. I cannot go out one time without seeing them that need help. And so, yeah, it is a bit overwhelming, and I'm just hoping that people power will solve this, that I can empower as many people as possible to take action, that I can, we have someone from the gemeente in Amsterdam is now assisting us, that he is trying to get the city council to recognize this as a problem. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just, just trying to put one foot in front of the other and keep going and hope that we can make a difference. And I do feel that in a short time, we've already started some type of conversation. We're busting myths. I mean, this thing about pigeons being dirty and spreading diseases, it's really a complete myth. There's pretty much unheard of that someone catches a disease from pigeons. And, when you think about it, this whole flying rats thing is really recent. It started in the 1960s. And then Woody Allen had it also in a movie where he mentioned that. And then it just got into the culture. So it's basically a 1 or 2 generation thing. And before that, pigeons were seen as pure and, a sign of peace. And they were also war heroes. They died in their thousands to save lives in the war. And so I think we can turn this around and bust that this story within a few years. I'm confident that we can completely destroy this flying rats thing because it's just a meme. It's a meme that can go as quickly as it arrived, and it's not based on any facts. So, I just want more people to get involved, and I want to help as much as I can to get people empowered. So that's why we do twice a week, we do stringfoot events where I try to teach people. A lot of people have to get over their fear of holding a pigeon. They have to get their confidence, but, that's the only way we'll do it. And, one person cannot do this. It has to be everybody.
I live in the middle of the city of Rotterdam, and there were usually pigeons just eat what people throw on the streets, but nobody, because everything was closed, there was no food. So I just started feeding them. But then I got a lot of bad comments, like it's illegal, you're not allowed to do that. Do you get a lot of positive response from people, or when you feed? Because I think Amsterdam has the same rule, right? You cannot feed pigeons in the center.
Yeah, it's mixed. I mean, there is usually it's people from a certain generation, a little bit older, Dutch people, in my experience, that complain. A lot of the immigrant community are very supportive because many times their culture tells to look after stray animals, and they recognize that pigeons are stray animals. Mm-hmm. So it's really mixed. I think that during lockdown, what happened was actually an animal rights crime because the pigeons did not get any food, and there was mass starvations all over the country. And I noticed that the younger generation now of pigeons have all kind of feather deformations and joint deformations and all kind of stuff that comes from not getting enough nutrition in the nest. So this lockdown effect from lockdown has carried on the suffering into the next generation. Very small as well. They're very small size. So I think that in parts of Germany, the city council had official feeding spots during lockdown because they recognize this as an animal welfare issue, and we didn't do that in the Netherlands, and this is
No.
a shame really to this country. The country should be ashamed of themselves. And these pigeons, they have been bred for thousands of years by humans to stay in exactly the same spot. They won't leave even if they're dying because they were bred to stay in pigeon houses, because they were, bred for food. So they've had certain characteristics bred into them by humans, which make them very vulnerable. They will never go searching somewhere for food. They depend 100% on humans for food. They're not wild pigeons. I think a lot of people don't know the difference between a wild pigeon and a domesticated pigeon, which is our main gray city pigeons. And you have to think that these pigeons have been living with us for 10,000 years, bred by humans to be our companion, and they cannot find food themselves. So I think it's ignorance, really, that people sometimes think they're going to be okay. If you say you're killing this pigeon by refusing to feed it, that might change the conversation.
True. And Sophie, where does your love from pigeons, where does it come from?
I've always really been an animal lover, but especially urban birds have fascinated me because they live so seamlessly among us in the city. And obviously, the pigeon is like the prime example of that. And it fascinated me that they're almost copying our behavior. You see them in the metro, you see them in the supermarket sometimes by accident. And that just really fascinated to me. And I almost found it kind of funny. So, recently, I graduated from Willem de Koning Academy of Arts here in Rotterdam, and when it came time to choose a subject, it was a really hard question for me. I knew I wanted to do something with the urban pigeon, and especially like we've just talked about, change its reputation, because that's just very important. It's just so unfair that the pigeon is being portrayed as a flying rat or a pest when, like we just said, they are descendants of our pets. And that's why I chose this subject for my graduation project. And I wanted to change its reputation and kind of like put him on a pedestal. So that's why I created this Instagram account for him, and especially the Rotterdam Pigeon, because that's where I'm located. And I wanted to create some kind of like positive connotation for the pigeon. At the same time, educate people about the stringfoot and about their suffering that I especially learned when joining Billie on the Stringfoot Sunday, but also just kind of like create some kind of character, like a mix between fantasy, like the skateboarding pigeon or the pigeon who has the butterfly wings and just wants to be a butterfly, but also the more realistic thing, like the pigeon combined with food. So I kind of wanted to make him kind of like an internet sensation, or like a character or a spokesperson for all urban pigeons.
What have the responses been to your art, to these images?
Lots of times it's mostly my peers who are very excited about it, because they're already more open to seeing the pigeon as more of a friend than a disgusting creature. So that's why I also kind of targeted my own generation, because they are a bit more radical, in making a change, and they're all very positive about it. About this new image of the pigeon, and also just educating people along the way, just starting the conversation about the pigeons, because no one really has a clue about it.
Yeah, true.
And about their suffering.
And she also has stickers. She has really nice stickers you can use on social media. You want to tell them how to find your stickers?
Yeah, if you go on Instagram and you want to use like a GIF on your story, you basically just go to the GIF search bar and you type at Rotterdamse Duif, so include the @ sign, and then you can use my GIF stickers on your stories to, you have a lot of them with the pigeons to use on your story, so that's really fun.
Yeah, I really like it. Like here you also have this is in Dutch, but it's like, which dove are you? This is like the donut dove, postal pigeon, sorry. Pigeon and dove are the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Billie? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, they can be a little bit different in English, but you have they can be like a difference in their how they look and their breed, but it's basically the same animal. Yeah, similar.
And then the skate pigeon. Oh, this is one that you just meant with the butterfly pigeon.
Yeah, I wanted to really create something like interactive or that people kind of can get like excited about, um, and kind of identify with the pigeon, I guess.
And will you? So you have this as an Instagram account, and do you also do that sometimes in Rotterdam? Like go on a take the strings off their feet, or is that still scary to
No,
do
I
it by
haven't
yourself?
done it. Yeah, it's kind of scary to do it by myself. Have been noticing them a lot more, but it just takes some practice to actually catch them. And I think maybe more hands would be easier. So yeah, if there would be some kind of initiative here, that would be really great.
Yeah, but so you have that's. I think you want to do that, right, Billy? Like have more and more
Yeah.
people all over the city, because even if you see this now in Rotterdam, like if I were to see it now, I don't know how to. Like you have so much experience in it now, but I guess it would be like training the whole country for you at the moment.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
since I started, people do send messages saying, "Oh, well, since I follow your account, I suddenly see much more. I see pigeons with this all the time, but I don't know what to do." And I'm getting these messages everywhere. So, actually, with Rotterdam, we were there recently, and I took a pigeon from Rotterdam back home. She's in the
Hmm.
rehabilitation room now, and I have to take her back there. So, when I go, I would say, I'm going to be there. Does anyone want to join me? To do some de-stringing. And there are also other groups, people who are connected to the Stichting who are doing de-stringing. There is actually somebody who goes to Rotterdam regularly who is also available to help. So people should follow our page on
Yeah.
Facebook, and then they will see like notices saying we're going to go de-stringing in this town or that town. Then they can join and they can learn.
And they can learn. Yeah, I think you have to like.
Yeah.
I was thinking you can like see by a video, but I think you have to see you like really live in action how you have to hold a pigeon. Because I think even I've never held a pigeon, but even the thought of like holding it, I think scares people a lot.
Yeah, I think it's not more people. Quite a lot of people are scared of birds in general. I was amazed by that, and it's if you have experience with birds, probably it would be a lot easier. But if you don't, I think definitely you want to have a little bit of help in the beginning, and then your confidence will go very fast. Once you tried it a few times, then you really learn like, oh, it's easier than I thought.
And I want to show your house. This is your home. You sent us this video today, because your home basically turned since you started. Your home turned into a pigeon hospital.
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
to outplay it, and then you can
Yeah.
tell us what we
So
see.
so there's my pigeon food. I'm going, once a week, bringing back pigeon food, like in 25-kilo bags, and I have a little aviary on my back balcony. It's not big enough to keep pigeons for their whole life, but it's
Yeah.
to keep them when they're rehabilitating, when they're relearning to fly, or when I need to keep them for a while before I can take them to a larger sanctuary in another country, because we don't have a sanctuary at this moment in the Netherlands. So I have now 7 pigeons, but sometimes I've had up to 15 or 16 or 20 even, which is really too many pigeons for that small space. But if I don't have anything else to do with them, then I have to put them there temporarily. But they're always really happy there, because pigeons don't really like to fly. They like to just sit in one space, and
Just
for
yeah.
them this is ideal. And then I have a little hospital room. So this is where I put the pigeons who are undergoing treatment. I'm actually planning to rebuild this room, because it was actually a storeroom or a little study, and now I just have cages everywhere. But I'm going to build a wall of like cages where I can keep them. And so all these pigeons have either bandages on their feet. This one just came back from surgery. He had some toes cut off at the vet. And then, this one really wanted to fly around, so I let her fly around the room a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
can you get a plate? Because you have this at your home, right? Like, so you have to debunk something for me, because people still believe that the disease story, that's what I hear a lot, like pigeons diseases. Can you just like debunk that whole myth that it's not
No.
true?
It's not true. I mean, with all animals, if somebody, for instance, is HIV positive, if they are really sick and they're very immune compromised, then they're sometimes at a risk of certain fungal infections. And so if somebody has AIDS, I wouldn't put them in a room with a pigeon or maybe any animal, because it's something technical. It has to do with B cells and T cells. But certain people who are very immunocompromised can catch things from animals. But we're talking, pigeon experts have told me that they can go their whole life working with pigeon rehabilitation or as a wildlife expert and never, ever, ever hear of a case of someone getting sick from a pigeon. It's so rare. It's much more likely that you get sick from something else. So I think that this is a complete myth, you know? It
So
really
even
is.
even if you yourself, like if you happen to see a pigeon and you think, okay, I want to help it, like touching it and picking it up with your bare hands is okay if you're just healthy.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
It's completely okay. There's nothing. In fact, I think from what I've read, pigeons are more likely to get sick from you than you are from them, though that would also be very rare. But no, there's no danger of picking up a pigeon.
No, and so you have
no danger to you, maybe to them if you pick them up wrong. But
and you have all these pigeons at your house. Is Amsterdam open to giving you a place for all these pigeons, or like to open a sanctuary here in Holland?
It's the logical conclusion because right now there is nothing for them, and we take in pigeons sometimes after they've had a double amputation because of strings. We cannot just put them on the street. I mean, there are plenty of pigeons on the street struggling, walking on their ankle bones, but you know, I don't feel that that's moral to put them back on the street. So now all I can do is once in a while drive to a sanctuary in another country and take them there. So we really would hope that there comes some sanctuary space. And at this moment, the existing sanctuaries are not taking in pigeons. There is a discrimination based on species.
You mean like bird sanctuaries in Holland are not taking in pigeons? If you bring a pigeon to a bird sanctuary now, they get euthanized, I think, right?
Yeah, well, it depends. Like if you're talking about a real sanctuary where animals can stay their whole life, we don't have that many, and those that we have don't say we don't have space. One of them had like white pigeons that were a bequeathment from somebody, but they were not really open to taking in pigeons. I mean, if you're going to take in pigeons, it's going to be an ongoing thing, and you're going to have to really create some facilities that are. And they weren't really open to that, and other ones just don't get back to me in a way that becomes at a certain point like. Quite obviously a no if they're just completely evading you all the time when I'm discussing, because I offered to pay for the aviary myself and I offered to help them with it, but the pigeons don't have the same status that other animals do, and that has to change because that is speciesism.
Yeah, definitely. But what is then, you've mentioned a few things, but what is, if you say 100% of pigeons in Amsterdam in some areas have string foot, so they're either missing toes or anything, I assume for Rotterdam you can say the same thing. In the big cities, I think it's certain, some parts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know Rotterdam very well, but I heard that Rotterdam actually does have 2 duiventillen, which is dovecotes, which is the thing that we are hoping to be able, I'm hoping to be able to inspire all the city councils to install these. And that's where pigeons get food and they can rest there, they can sleep there, and they can put their nest there, and the eggs are switched with plastic eggs. And in those neighborhoods, I've heard that there are no pigeons on the ground anymore, that they're just up there in the pigeon houses. But in parts of Rotterdam, it is really shocking. I have a pigeon now in the room that is from Rotterdam. I found her in the underground metro with basically the whole foot was black and falling off. And I know some other people are going de-stringing there, and they are just seeing such terrible things there in some areas. So, yeah.
So for everybody watching this, if you want to learn how to do this yourself, go follow Pigeon Rescue and go to their Facebook page. See whenever because you're going to Rotterdam, you're going to Eindhoven, you organize things for people to learn it themselves because it's really necessary from what I hear from you. For reputation, go to, I have to say this in Dutch now, Rotterdamse Duif, the Instagram, and you can use her stickers. So you promote her more and you promote the image of pigeons more. And Billie, that there should be a sanctuary in Holland, basically, and more duiventillen, from what I understand.
What I really want is to inspire the city councils to create these duiventillen, because prevention is much more better than all of us trying to de-string these thousands and thousands of pigeons. And a sanctuary for the ones that are too disabled to go back to the street, and also for ones that maybe have a broken wing or something, because now they're just euthanized. But pigeons are just like chickens. They really love to stay in a small space so they can live a happy life even if they cannot fly. And I mean, I think that we have to remember in some countries, if you've gone on a holiday in some countries, you've seen people proudly kicking a stray dog in the street. I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly the same here, that pigeons are our stray dogs, you know? And because of culture, people don't see that they're doing exactly the same thing that they get upset about if they go to a country and they see someone kicking a dog. I hope we can change that and make people realize they're just as deserving of our compassion as any other animal.
Yeah, and also for humans to basically not throw anything on the street, right? Because all these strings are human. I think their hair, it's floss, it's everything that's a threat. Like we should just
don't brush your hair on the street, or like don't throw your hair after brushing it on the street, and watch out for strings. That will help. A lot of people going around doing like beach cleanups and plastic cleanups, but they're not paying attention to the strings and the hair, and that would save so many more animals' lives, literally, than just going to pick up plastic on the street. Because right now in our cities, the animals are not dying so much from plastic; they're dying from the strings and the hair.
Yesterday I was looking at like exactly the meaning of string foot, like what it is, and it's hair. In Germany, I found something in Germany, and the most common is hair, and it said human hair and extensions. That's where like most pigeons get stuck in.
Yeah,
that's something you can't even think of until somebody tells you that.
Yeah, and it cuts so sharp, because like fine hair is super, super strong, but super sharp. So it cuts in like a knife. It's really horrendous when you see it.
So for everybody also, like, try to pay attention, and you can contact Billie via Instagram and via Facebook. But if you see this on the street, like, pay more attention to pigeons, and like with any animal, right? It's kind of like a team effort. Go, tell me.
Yeah, I would love to say one thing, that you can really, really help us. That if you see a stringfoot pigeon or a pigeon who's lost their toes or whatever, to make a photo and to send it to us, because by collecting these photos, we can also give them to the city council and to to convince them that there is a problem. And at the moment, I'm making the photos, and some people are who are doing this work. But if everyone starts taking photos of the pigeons that they see with stringfoot or with damaged feet, and put them in our group, then you're going to help us like so much. So it's a small thing, but it really, really helps us.
Yes.
With the location as well, with the location that you saw the pigeon.
So we'll put it also with the video, like all the links to your Instagram pages and to your Facebook pages, and people just pay attention and send pictures to Billie, and use the stickers of Sophie. Thank you both so much for your time and for doing this, because I think it's even for me, this is like all new. Until I met Billie, I didn't pay attention to this before. So if we all start paying attention to this, maybe it can be a problem that's solved faster than we think. Thank you for watching, and we'll put all the links below the video, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks at Worm.